Hey guys, it's Kevin and this is going to be another classic movie review, continuing my reviews for the Mad Max series and my anticipation for Mad Max Fury Road, which I am seeing tomorrow, probably. Well, yeah, tomorrow. I'm not seeing it today. I thought I was going to, but I'm seeing it tomorrow. But I am now going to review what most people consider to be really the only one you need to watch. That is the 1981 action classic, The Road Warrior. Now, my expectations for this movie were very, very high because of how disappointed I was with the first movie. The first movie, I'm like, I don't like this story at all. I don't like where it's going. And I heard that this movie literally fixes all those problems and is a lot better than that story. So my expectations, as I said, were very high. Plus, I heard this is one of the greatest action movies ever made. So I watched this movie, and I have to say, this is what the Mad Max series needs to be, okay? This is what, honestly, you can ignore the first movie. Honestly, you could. You don't really need to watch the first movie because this movie perfectly reintroduces you to the character. If you guys don't know, actually, when the first movie, as I said, was only released to Australians, well, this movie they decided to try again, basically. Because it was so successful in Australia, they wanted to bring it to America. And they knew that the first one was not successful, so they decided they'd create a sequel. But they knew that no one in America would know the title Mad Max 2, so that's why they changed the title to The Road Warrior, which honestly I think is awesome because this movie perfectly stands out as its own thing. And let's get to the plot of The Road Warrior, which is already so much more interesting than Mad Max. First of all, in Mad Max, we kind of had this dystopian future where we weren't sure if we were on the verge of dying or if there was just crime in the world. Here, it is full-blown post-apocalyptic world because the supplies of gasoline have nearly been exhausted in the near future following this global war, and basically it's made everyone just turn against each other and go crazy. And the only person that can really stop it is Mad Max, and he is now doing whatever he can he's still on his revenge mission like he was in the first movie. But here's the thing, you don't really need to know that because it's pretty obvious you can tell he's on some sort of a revenge mission. And he's scavenging for food and drink and gas, and he only has a few companions, this dog and this rare functioning firearm for which ammunition is very scarce. And he's basically just doing what he should have done in the first movie, just take down these gang members and basically prove that he can take them down and basically try not to get himself killed. And that's basically a plot of The Road Warrior, which is an awesome plot. It's really simple, but it really doesn't need to be that complicated for it to be good. And there's so many things I love that this movie did that the first movie did not do. And I'm going to talk about the things that this movie did that was so much better than the first movie. First of all, the acting here. Oh my god, this is what the first movie should have been. Because as I said in the first movie, Mad Max didn't really have much of a character. He wasn't mad. He was kind of a coward, honestly. He really was. Rather than, avenge the death of his partner, he hides out with his family. But in this movie, there is no family. He has no one in this movie. So his character is a lot more interesting because he's all on his own. And I think that Mel Gibson just handled this part perfectly because this was actually Americans' first time we ever saw Mel Gibson. Now, Mad Max was his first performance. Technically, this was because most people know about this movie and not about Mad Max. And I have to say, he was just amazing in this movie. He was this loose cannon. This is what Mad Max should be. You can tell this guy is crazy. Well, he's not really crazy, but he's sort of a guy that he does have a heart, but he will flip out on you any second, and he will kill if he needs to. He will do whatever he can to survive, and that's really what this movie's about, is him surviving. But the thing I love about his character is that he really is a hero, but a lot of people don't really think he is this big hero. And he's honestly kind of worried about what's going to happen because the villain he's fighting against is very, very powerful. And everyone, is pretty sure that he's not going to be able to take down this villain. And I like seeing that throughout the movie. Definitely something I liked watching, and I thought that was very well done. And they have this great narration. The way they introduced his character I thought was awesome. Like, the way they just called him the Road Warrior. I'm like, this is awesome. This is exactly what the first movie should have been. And I love they did that. He was great in the movie. Bruce Spence is the gyro captain. I really liked his character too because he's also just like Max. He's a wanderer who's looking for fuel and supplies. But the thing I like about his character is that Max is not really sure if he can trust him, which is understandable because who can you trust in this world? This is a world where it just people aren't sane anymore. They're crazy now. They're turning on each other. There really isn't a need for people to be reasonable. There really is no reasonable part of the world, honestly. And I love seeing that in this movie because, Max doesn't really know who he can trust because all he really has is this dog. And I thought that was very well done. So he was really good in the movie. Emmy Menti was really good, the feral kid. However, the thing that makes this movie so different than the first movie that I think made this movie so much better is Keiji Nielsen as the Humongous. This is what a villain in Mad Max series needs to be. Not the toe cutter, some pussy villain who's afraid of women, shoots mannequins, and licks ice cream. No, this guy is a badass. He is huge. He's as tall as a giant. He looks like Bane. He talks like Bane. He is menacing. You look at him, you're intimidated by him, and he's pretty, it seems like he is impossible to take on unless you're as tall as him. And Mad Max definitely is not as tall as him, but yet he thinks that he can fight him, and I loved seeing that in the movie, just his courage. He never gave up on himself. He wanted to fight him. He knew he could, and I thought it was amazing the way they handled this character. He was awesome, and all the other villains in this movie were awesome as well. I really like the character of the Warrior Women as well, because she's this female member of the group who really doesn't trust Max. She doesn't really think he's doing the right thing, and I like seeing that as well. I thought that was something I didn't expect to see, is everyone's sort of like opinion of how Max is and why he does what he does. I thought that was definitely a very well done thing that they did, and I didn't expect them to do that, and I really enjoyed that overall. So the acting is great, as I said. The acting is fantastic in this movie. However, the biggest improvement to this movie, I have to say, besides the villains, is George Miller's directing, because the first movie, he knew the world. He did know the world, but he just got really, I think, convoluted with this movie. This movie, he had a clear sense of what he wanted to do. He was a lot more confident about this movie. You can tell that he had a lot more confidence in this project, and you can definitely tell in the directing. The directing here is spot on. You feel like you're in this world, this post-apocalyptic world where there's no food and food and water. There's all these things are very scarce, and I think George Miller just handled that perfectly to this movie. He was amazing. He directed it perfectly, and his directing really helped influence the story and made me a lot more interested in this world. Not that I wasn't in the first movie, but the first movie, I'm like, can we just move this on because I don't really care about this? He focuses on the stuff you want to care about, and I thought that was great that he did that. His directing was fantastic, I have to say. And he definitely did a very good job of, and the other thing in the first movie is that in the first movie, things happened, but they didn't exactly make sense. Like, there wasn't a clear vision of what's going on. Here, we know what's going on. We know there's a post-apocalyptic world. We know that's because of this war that happened and everyone's turning on each other. Perfect. The first movie, he really didn't establish that, and in this movie, a lot more things are established. And I think, yes, it's for two reasons. One, they had a higher budget. Two, they were just a lot more confident about this one. I think definitely after the success of the first one, they were a lot more confident, and you can definitely definitely shows very well in this movie, and I thought he did a great job directing it. Also, the screenplay of this movie is so much better than the first one. The screenplay of the first movie was so dry and so boring. I could not get into the story of the first movie whatsoever because the screenplay was so dry. But the screenplay here is so good because Max doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but you see his character, and you see how much of it, not only is he a badass, but he's just a great character overall, because he can snap at any second. You really don't know what's going to happen to him, and there's constant tension throughout this movie. One of the reasons is, how the fuck is Max going to get through this? Like, that's one of the questions that goes through your mind the whole movie. How is he going to survive? Because he is in constant peril throughout this movie. There is not one scene where there's not some sort of threat that he has to take on. The amount of villains he has to take on in this movie is crazy, and the amount of violence in this movie. I mean, there's violence and terror every second, so there's not really a lot of room to breathe. That doesn't mean you can't have a very engaging screenplay. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean that you can't have a very good story either, which is something that I think George Miller did very well. The first movie I thought was a way too slow-paced, and I like slow-paced movies, but this is not a series that needs to be slow-paced. This is what it should be. Fast-paced, perfect. I love it because the world needs to be that way. It's only going to be realistic if you make it fast-paced. That's really the truth. It's only going to work that way. cinematography is so good to this movie. Oh my god. The world looks so real. It looks like this is just a post-apocalyptic world. You could just think of this as the future. And I think it did a perfect job of showing it with the cinematography. Mind-blowing cinematography. Also, some of the best action sequences I've ever seen. There are amazing explosions. This movie was made in 1981. It still holds up today. That was definitely one of my problems with the first movie, is that the action really did not hold up today. And in this movie, they show you everything. Remember all the blood and guts they didn't show in the first movie? Well, in here, they show pretty much everything, and I love that they did that because it's more realistic that way. You can't just not show me things and expect me to care for these characters. No, you have to show me the peril that they're in, the danger that they're in. It makes me more worried about their characters, it makes me care about their characters more, and it influences the characters' motives. That's what this movie did, and I love that they realized that with this movie. It's something I thought was awesome, and I absolutely love that about the cinematography. Cinematography was mind-blowing. There, especially the final action sequence, oh my god, it was on the edge of my seat, and I thought that was awesome. Also because of the score. The score in the first movie, I hated the score in the first movie. I didn't talk about this. I hated the score in the first movie. Very cheesy score. It was way too just fun. This score is nuts. Honestly, the score of this movie is nuts, but that's because the movie's nuts, and I love that, and I think the score to this movie was awesome, really, and again, it influenced the story, it boosted the tension, it made you worried about the characters. There's a scene where you really worry about Max. I mean, there are scenes in this movie where you're thinking that Max might possibly die, honestly. Even though you know there's another movie, there's a possibility, like in this movie, that he might just die, because these movies actually stand out on their own. I don't know if you guys know that. These movies pretty much stand out on their own. They're not really linked together, because they actually change the reason the apocalypse happens in each movie, which I think is really cool, actually, because they end up just standing out on their own, and you can watch whatever movie you want to, and I think that's really good overall. And also, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the editing, because the editing in the first movie was really bad. Very slow-paced, very boring. This is a lot more fast-paced. The movie went by like that, and that's because of how into it I was. The story is so much more interesting. Honestly, the story here is so much more interesting. It's so much more engaging. It's just, when you have a character that's called Mad Max and he's not mad, it doesn't work. Here, he's like a loose cannon. This is what he needs to be in this movie. I like that he's not really an anti-hero, though. He is a hero. You're not really sure about his safety, and you're worried that he thinks he's a lot more powerful than he is. But the ending of this movie truly is epic, and it has some of the best action sequences ever made. It's probably one of the best action movies ever made, honestly. A lot of people said it's one of the greatest action movies ever made. It's going to be really hard to see how Fury Road tops this, because I heard Fury Road does top this, but honestly, after seeing this movie, I don't see how it really can. The stakes of this movie are so high, and the tension is built so much this movie. It's really going to be tough to see if Fury Road can capture that, suspense level and the tension that this movie had. Looking by the trailers, it definitely looks like it can, but I'm not really sure. But I guess we'll have to see what happens in Fury Road. Now, overall, though, the Road Warrior, guys, it's an amazing movie. It's one of the best action movies ever made. I'm so happy I watched it. I honestly don't recommend you watch the first movie. Don't watch the first movie. Don't. Watch this, okay? First movie, not worth your time. Really, it's not worth your time. There's nothing about the first movie that you really need to see, because there's a perfect introduction to Mad Max in the beginning of this movie. You can just watch this movie on its own, and that's great. And honestly, after this movie, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I don't really want to watch this movie. I really don't want to watch Beyond Thunderdome. I heard that it's way too convoluted. I heard that it definitely is, like, sort of like the pussy version of Mad Max, like the family-friendly version, and I really don't want to watch it, honestly. This one's PG-13. I really don't want to watch this movie. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I really don't, but should I watch it? You guys can recommend if you want me to watch it, but I personally don't really think I need to watch it. I think I'm good with this movie. Honestly, I do. This is what I want in the Mad Max series. I'm good. I really am. I really don't want to watch this. I will watch this. If you guys recommend this to me and tell me I want you to watch this, and if you don't see Fury Road without watching this, I'll watch it, okay? I'll watch it, but I really don't want to. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't want to watch it. I'd rather skip it. I heard it's not very good, and after, this point of Mad Max, I really want to go into Mad Max Fury Road with very high expectations. I already have very high expectations for it, but I don't want this to be, like, the last movie I see before Fury Road. I want this to be. This is what I want. So, Road Warrior, what the series needs to be. Mad Max Now, what the series needs to be. Should I watch this movie? That's up to you guys, but that's basically this review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I absolutely love this series now. I'm so happy I watched this movie. Let me know if you guys saw this movie. If you have seen it, that's in my review, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for... I'm really not looking forward to my next review, guys. I'm really not. Season finale of The Vampire Diaries, Nina Dobrev's final episode. It's going to be the series finale for me because I am no longer watching the show if the main character is leaving. It's that simple. And I talked about this. It's going to be a rant. I know I'm going to rant on what they're going to do. I'm going to talk about the problems with the show, why they shouldn't be doing this, why they could have had a much better ending. But... you guys will see that video. I'm really not looking forward to it. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't think it's going to be a well-done episode. I really feel like there's other stuff happening in the episode. Honestly, look up the description. There's like 5 other plots happening. It's ridiculous. And it's like this every episode. It's really annoying. And I'm probably just going to ditch the show after because the originals is on after the Vampire Diaries next year anyway, which is awesome. And I love that. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye. Oh, also, what do you guys think of the Road Warrior? What's your favorite Mad Max movie? Should I watch Beyond Thunderdome? You guys can answer that question. I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.